let it out. See? Big belly, chest in, let it out. Repeat. Comfortable pace. Comfortable pace. Maybe a little faster than you might be super comfortable with. Depends what you want to do. There's different modalities. I recommend doing the comfortable, painless thing first. Okay, so you take 30 of those big old breaths, and on breath number 30, you really accentuate that inhale. If you want to gulp down a little extra air, go for it. That's what I do when I want to get rid of the hiccups anyway, so I was familiar with that. And then if you really want to put a cherry on top and go for a ride, be safe, people. But if you do, compress your air chamber a little bit. You know, use your exhaling muscles without breathing out. Ooh, let that tension build up. Anybody who's ever thrown a fit knows what I'm talking about. You know, I don't want veins popping out on your forehead necessarily. That might be bad for you. But a little bit of pressure for a couple of seconds, and then you let that 30th breath out. See? And when you do, it might be handy to have a timer on you. That's when you hit the stopwatch and let it go. And while it's counting, you're still just hanging out with that breath out, with that breath let down. Not totally empty, remember. You'll be sucking fumes. Very uncomfortable. However, you hold it as long as you're comfortable. If that's 10 seconds, cool. If it's 30, cool. Wim's beginner tutorial will advise you during these periods of time. He's talking this whole time, so you can kind of just go with his words and follow his commands. That's one thing that makes those tutorials so good. You'll be down there, you took your 30th breath, you let it out, you do whatever you have to do to not breathe in again. You can clench your throat, you can just hang out. Sometimes if I'm really relaxed, I can just, without managing too many muscles, I can just keep the air down there for a while anyway, with barely any input on my part. Find what works for you. But, you know, we're counting. The longer you go, the more your oxygen-saturated blood, your hypoxic blood, no, I'm sorry, your hyperoxygenated blood, which has now built a resistance to that oxygen because too much was coming in. It's the kind of same rules that govern getting a head rush when you've been going too hard with your sprint, or you're too many rounds into the fight without a break, and you start getting dizzy and you start seeing spots and stuff. But this is in a very controlled environment with no stakes. You can back off anytime. I don't think I did one cycle right until I was like 20, 30 cycles in. Just because every time I was like, okay, how did that feel? Oh, a little uncertain. I kind of seized up, so I'm backing off. Just that kind of thing. That's all. So, Wim's tutorials will have the standardized metric of 30 seconds on the first cycle. I think it's 45 on the second, and it might be like a minute on the third, maybe longer. So there's that. And again, while you're down there not breathing, you got Wim in your ear saying things like, hey, if it's time to come up for air, then come up for air. You know. And he also at the end will say, typically, not every time, that if you want to prolong the breath hold, That's cool too. Pause the video. Sometimes I do one, sometimes I do the other. And I've been doing this for over a year now. I'm still not great at it. Ah. But I'm not bad. Because I don't really necessarily take... I know what I just said. Despite what I just said, I can assure you I'm pretty decent about not taking human dichotomies like I did good that time and I did bad that time. I don't do a lot of that when it comes to those practices. So, that's one cycle. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not one cycle. I'm describing a thing to you, aren't I? Right. When you're ready to breathe, basically breathe the way that you did on the 30th, where you just let it all in, and then hold for 15 seconds. And if you want to compress your air chamber a little bit again, cool. So that might get a little tricky on your stopwatch. In fact, most of the errors that I still have are that I felt so damn good by the time that it was time to breathe in, that I breathed in and forgot to hit the stop button on the time. Which, by the way, that's all secondary. Timing yourself is cool, but it's not super important. I do it because I time myself because I have goals with the practice. Because the practice is orienting toward providing you with the sense of, oh, I can be functional in this highly distressing environment. Wim uses the breath. Well, he found the breath while immersed in ice water. And he found that combining that breathing with body immersion in ice water, during those exhale times, that unlocked a lot of infrastructure, a lot of circuitry in his body, which he then accredited to his capacity to withstand longer and longer periods of time in ice water without suffering any damage, no frostbite, no core body temperature problems, no hypothermia. That's kind of the territory that I'm tiptoeing toward. And I mean it, tiptoeing. I have a freestanding bath that I can unfold anytime that I want to. Ice is not prohibitively expensive. If I were to do an ice bath a day, I could probably have an ice bath every 3 days and just cut out my alcohol budget and come out okay. Of course, all of my budgets are currently susceptible to change because of where I'm at. Kind of depends on how things go tonight and tomorrow and in the coming weeks. How many nasty surprises I get, good, bad, and ugly. Hopefully plenty of all of it. Anyway, with the 15-second hold, with all that air in you, after all that breathing and after all that exhale holding, you finally let that final breath out. That is a cycle. Understand that means something. That provides meaning and weight to what I said earlier when I said the effects will compound more if you don't pause between the cycles. Whenever I go between cycles, the place where it's easiest to get hung up is between the cycles. Because, well, try it for yourself. What condition are you in after breathing really big 30 times? Holding your breath out for, in my case, between 2 or 3 minutes. I like to hit 3 minutes at least once during my cycles at this point in the journey. And then breathing really, really big in and just filling the air. All the compressions, all the psychoactive stuff happening. It is very psychedelic for me. You might not have that experience. I recommend you be very careful around compressing your air chamber in this practice. If you have things like tinnitus or pressure problems in your ears, just watch out, Just watch out. There's times that often when I run for really long periods of time, I have a little bit of weird air movement in my sinuses and my ears, and it is a practice some people do to imbibe saline into like one of their nostrils, let's say, and then which is a challenge. And then on top of that, they move their head around in such a way as to swish the water, as to swish the saline solution around and around in those channels, all those weird connecting tunnels in your head. And at the end, the way that it was described to me, they'll get that saline and let it out the opposite nostril as it came in. That scares me. Have not done that. Will do it. It sounds refreshing if you survive. I heard something that there is a diver technique where if you have too much pressure in your head going to depths of more than, a few meters, you want to plug your nose and blow as hard as you can. And the last time that I did something like, I can remember 2 times that I've done things that are like that. The first time I was very young, and I was just, you're a kid, you explore, So here I was just exploring away with breathing and with moving around and playing and stuff. So I was like, okay, how much pressure can I put in my face? So I compressed all my muscles and I let all that compression operate with some air in my lungs. And you know what happened? My throat popped. A vein, something in my throat, popped and crimped and stuck out for a second and scared the ever-loving bajiminy crickets out of me. Another time, I think because I was trying to move air around, since I don't like to have remainders of air that don't feel right in my ears, it's one of those weird things where, I inhale and I can feel it, or I exhale and I can feel this air kind of pressing and trying to get out of my ear. That kind of thing. So I just tried to do it manually. Maybe I was successful at one point with that or another, but for a lot of these things, it only takes being unsuccessful once, and then you learn. I remember I held my nose and I blew with all my might in an exhaling fashion, and thank God I didn't rupture an eardrum or anything. Or did I? You be the judge. Whew. Am I tone deaf? While it hurt. It hurt, and I backed off pretty quick. I can't imagine that there's no way of hurting yourself really badly doing either of those things. But there may be merit as well. So anyway, we went from Wim Hof to we went from anger to Wim Hof breathing to ear pressure. Who knew? It's funny. It's funny, I talk this way. Could be because I'm consciously attending to that phenomenon, but there definitely is a little bit of air in my ears right now. Both of them. Oh, such a strange feeling. I know that exercise tends to make that happen in me. when have been going for long periods of time. Anyway, looks like we're still recording. Good. Ah, yes. God, we took the long circuit, didn't we? Against all odds, didn't we? I wonder what my foot will look like when I get home. Woo, it's exciting. Anything left unsaid? I don't want to leave anything on the road. No, I think we have purveyed solid service today. I think we've been good to each other. I think we've connected. I don't know how, because I'm just a guy talking into a microphone, holding a phone somewhere between the abdominal sheets on the right side of the torso and the pecs. Awkward. Oh, it's awkward. Oh. If I move that arm, you're gonna go sailing. Like, watch. I mean, come on. I didn't even look at the screen for any of that, and there's no way that's not hell on earth for the viewer. Like, yeah, it looks like 1 hour, 23 minutes. That's cool. But my point was, I'm not gonna do that to you guys. I'm keeping this thing less mobile, you know? So fine, I'll show you. So my left arm is really compensating. You can see it in my shadow too, probably. Anyway. Like a damn fool. Look, man. Please let me be a fool. I can think of so much worse. Can I tell you, even without doing the Wim Hof breathing, I mean, I do it in bed as I wake up every morning. Okay, I lied. I pee first. I get back into bed. I reheat up, you know, with the breathing. And then I start my day. But with or without the breathing, I've had pretty much every conceivable type of uncomfortable dream. Like, really, like, lewd uncomfortable. I've had anger uncomfortable. I've combined those two. I've had, oh God, I've had just systemic overriding levels of anxiety in these dreams. Woke up in a blind panic. I've woken up very stimulated and wondering if I might not attend to chimp human matters before doing the Wim Hof breathing, etc., etc. I've been every form of myself recently, awakening. I've had every kind of dream, even really banal, bland ones, where I'm like, oh, thank God I woke up this morning. I get to do something that's interesting. All that. Dreams where I was in control, shaping things. Dreams where I wasn't in control. Doomed dreams. I had doomed dreams where there was no way out. The zombies were coming, and I was climbing, but you can only climb buildings for so far. And if you're not in the position during that dream to remember that it's just a damn dream, and you can fly, well, then the zombies are gonna get you, aren't they? Nemesis dreams. Dreams of rivals. Dreams of overcoming obstacles. I've had them all. I've had every emotion and lots of it waking up these last few months. I was going to say years, but even just these last few months, I've pretty much gone the full spectrum. Maybe not sadness. Maybe not pure sadness. Like morose. Maybe not that. I've had that in waking life. Maybe it's one of those that I've just been dealing with it for so long. In waking and in sleeping. That for the last half a year or whatever, it just hasn't really come up that much. And now it's time for other emotions to let me know about other things that are happening in the kingdom that is king. I must preside over and dictate legislation, course correction. You know, I sensed that I was going somewhere, and I kind of lost myself in that spaghetti soup of word salad. Blech. Well, as always, we come far on these. As always, we do. Whew. Okay. I'm going to close out now because I want to hit the post office on the way home. So I'm going to want to walk in the sun for a bit, enough for my sweat to dry a little, and then perhaps I won't stink so bad in the enclosed space with all the P.O. box keys and all that, or the P.O. boxes and all that. Wonder what's waiting for me in there. Okay, let's hit that. Let's not. Let's end it. Often the point that I use on the way home is the creek. I like to stop running at the creek, whether it's a 5-hour run, 3-hour run, an hour run. I don't always do it. Sometimes I run right up to my doorstep. I typically don't do the same run twice, tell you that much. Okay. Closing thoughts. It's been good to be with you. I can't wait for these runs to become more magical. I can't wait to be overridden in my need to explore places I haven't been while running. Because we've done a lot of the same runs. This is my bread and butter. These are my safety areas. I've done them enough to kind of know what they're like at different times of the week, different times of the day, whatever mood I'm in. And it's good. So, with that in mind, let's take 3. All right. Well, thanks for being here. Y'all have a good one. Let's take it home.